Great to see everyone.
How are you doing?
Excellent. How are you?
Great.
Good.
Great. How would you? Hey, let's grade how you think you did in the off season.
Wow. Jeez. You know, it's an interesting year. I think I talk about it each time. Every off season has its its own nuances. Obviously, we had 3 arbitration cases, kept us busy through the month of July. Obviously exciting news before the draft, getting JT signed. So there's, lots of things I think probably have to sit back and reflect over, all of them, but you really don't get that time. You just move on to the next thing, and there's always something next thing in the National Hockey League. And, I think for us, business still is at work. And I think, in this game, you never stop. There's always something. Like it's not a defined off-season, defined beginning of the season. Heck, you guys are going to start talking trade deadline here shortly. So, it's but that's part of it. That's the exciting thing here. We hit the ground running here now, and training camp is when you get a chance to, reinvent yourself. And for us, it's going to be, resetting and getting back to business.
I guess the Kyle Connor thing is a great example of the things that keep going. Where would you say you're at in that situation?
Yeah, Kyle Connor, Adam Lowry, all very important, aspects of the organization here, and everything, takes on, different things. Every contract negotiation is different. Every player is different. We've had great dialogue with Casey's representatives and continue to have that. So, he's obviously, he's a big part. Adam's a big part. We had great success as a group, and we like to, keep on pushing forward.
Are you comfortable, Kevin, if this goes beyond training camp, or would you like to get that done before?
Well, you'd like to have it done yesterday. Like those are things that you keep, pushing towards. Every conversation, you're kind of hopeful that this is the one that closes it type thing. But it's not I don't know that it's a time frame sort of thing. It's something that you keep on working at it, and I wouldn't even say grinding at it. It's just working at it.
The rising cap, and there's a bunch of superstars all looking for new deals. Is that impacted anything?
Well, that's part of the league. That's the state that we're in here. Several years ago, we were we're answering questions about how do you deal in the flat cap? How do you deal when there's only $1 million added to the cap each and every year? So now we again every team. There's an economic climate that is, somewhat new and still somewhat unfolding, and there's a new CBA that is kind of in place in some aspects, still kind of unfolding as it goes in front of us. There's nuances of the CBA that we're still waiting from the league to really get the finer details of, and all those things factor in to every decision you make, especially if you're talking about trying to make decisions that are far reaching, as far as, term in an organization.
You guys signed the Toews contract with the performance bonuses. Would you already have had a sense that the playoff cap was coming and he'd be a $2 million instead of a $7 million player at that point?
I think, again, the way bonuses have been treated, that I didn't think that was going to change. I think that those are things that, were already kind of effectually taken into consideration in the cap. It is a pay now or pay later type of thing, so that hasn't changed. So I don't know that was so much, of a factor, kind of hedging our bets of the playoff rules or anything like that. But, again, we've always been playoff compliant, so that was never going to be a concern for me.
What is the strengths of this group going into camp?
Well, I think, again, it's the opportunity that's in front of them, and I think the hunger that, the scars and the pain that get left behind when, you don't, get as far as you collectively want to. I think you have to, every group learns, a certain something along the way. I think very fortunately for us is this group, it shares in its successes and it shares in its disappointments, and very close group obviously during the season. I think it's still a very close group off ice during the off season. I've heard again, guys training in groups and pushing each other and, those kind of things. And I know having the continuity of a coaching staff, the expectations, there's nobody, sitting in there wondering, well, what's Arnie going to expect what's Davis going to expect? What's Chinny going to expect? Marty, they know. And, again, it's about even taking it to another level.
Just back to the UFA market for a second. Reports of Kirill Kaprizov turning down a certain contract. I know these things don't happen in a vacuum, but is there a feeling that maybe the market is due for a pretty steep correction?
Again, I can only, I guess, speak to my own, conversations that I've had. I can't really validate or, kind of hypothecate on what's going on in other places.
But as far as the potential for a market correction and maybe salaries to head up steeply for players across the board?
Well, I think, again, we're still going to be in a cap situation, and the cap will be the cap, but obviously it moved up significantly this year and poised to move up significantly next year. And, I think the reality of the situation is the cap is playing catch up from those years where we sat here and said, we're thankful to be playing. Obviously, we got, thankful to the owners for taking the risk of keeping the lights on, and it's really fortunate that the people that run the league, both from the league standpoint and the players' standpoint, figured out how we get through COVID, how we can get to the other side, healthy as an industry, and then obviously benefit from it now. Where it goes in the future, obviously the cap is still tied to revenues, and we'll see how it all plays out.
And Josh Morrissey said the other day that he thinks this is the deepest group that he's seen in his tenure here, which presumably would mean the whole Jets tenure. Would you concur with that statement, just looking at some of the battles that are going to have to happen here?
Yeah, I think again, one of the things that we talked about last year was having our depth tested. We had probably more injuries than we, kind of when you sit back and you look at all the different things that we had to go through. There was probably more injuries than we let ourselves believe during the season, and we needed guys to step up, and we need some younger guys to really step up in this camp and make us take notice here, because I think that's how you truly can get better. From September, October, and into May and June is when you have players take steps in organizations. So, we signed some different faces at different areas of the lineup, but we're hopeful that there's some players that really have taken notice that their time could be right now.
Sorry, in terms of you added a lot of veteran depth, and there's a lot of quality well beyond four lines, and from the outside it seems like a Brad Lambert and Elias Salomons, and those guys' work is cut out for them. So is the hope that they just do something so wonderful that you can't help it?
Yeah, I think they have to show they're ready is what they have to show. They have to show that again, and it's not even about veteran or non-veteran, it's about being in the National Hockey League, period. We're beyond those kind of evaluations. We're our focus, our goal, it has to be during the regular season here to be consistent and eliminate 8 teams. That's got to be the goal. You can't, again, you can't start a new year without that mindset, because, and again, we have to find that best group. Now, training camp will lend itself as an opportunity, but it's a long year, and you need many different aspects within the organization to kind of push and click, and sometimes you have to pull it through them too.
Also on the veteran note, your top line beat other top lines last year, but your middle six kind of smoked them. That was a real strength for the organization. Is that something you've identified, whether it's 35 plus players that you can get cap efficient deals on? Is this something that you guys are working on really actively?
Well, obviously I think, within our group, we're very fortunate to have a guy like Larry Simmons who really understands the nuances of the cap and everything like that. But I think you when you're going out to do deals, you just want to do fair deals. You're not really trying to, and then you put those deals in the books and you kind of build around it, so to speak, and see. So, but as far as the philosophy, for the last several years here now, has been built with the foundation that gets set in training camp here when, when Bones and Arnie came in, and Arnie's continued it here now. And like I say, it's we have to reset with that same mindset of building on that foundation of what a Winnipeg Jet, looks like, and what a Winnipeg Jet team, looks like.
To that end, what's the benefit of bringing in a couple of Stanley Cup champions?
Well, again, it's you're always, that's the dream, that's the goal, right? That's what every player that sits there is. But and I talked a little bit about it yesterday with the players. It's you don't just get to the dream, you don't just get to the goal. There's a journey along the way, and you have to embrace that journey. And one thing I know for sure is you can't win the Stanley Cup by yourself. It has to be a group. It has to be a team. And there's never going to be a straight line, to that success. There's going to be peaks and valleys and twists and turns. And to have people that have endured the peaks and valleys, twisted and turns, and been able to, hoist the ultimate prize, those are valuable things that you can, you always can learn from.
When you talk about that journey, there's been a lot of consistency with this team over the years in messaging, how the players respond, personnel. What makes you think that that what you're doing right now is going to work to the ultimate end in winning that Stanley Cup?
Well, I have a lot of belief in, the group of guys that are in there. I've got, and even more importantly, they have a lot of belief in each other. When you believe in that player sitting next to you, that's a powerful thing, because it's, and when you believe that that player next to you is going to try to bring the best out of you as well, that's even more powerful. And that's kind of what it takes, to have a group, be together year over year, and care and push and not afraid to get in each other's face, to continue to push. That's what you need. And that's, when the players respect each other to the point where they can hold each other accountable, then you've got some powerful stuff.
It's not easy to get a team to that culture. How do you feel that your team was able to do that over the last number of years?
Well, again, we've had a lot of different experiences, both good and difficult, and you feel and learn and grow from the difficult ones just as much, if not more, than celebrating the ultimate prize. But I think players, again, as they mature in their careers, as they mature in their games, they understand how hard it is to win, and they're looking for guidance, they're looking for structure, and when those things come into place and there's a level of success or a level of, okay, this works, let's continue to do that, and belief in that, then again, that's where an identity gets formed, and a group becomes a team.
Fitness testing yesterday was the final day, I guess. Yeah. It probably harkens back to a different time in the league when maybe guys would come to camp to get into shape. That's probably not nearly the concern anymore. But from an organizational standpoint, does fitness testing provide value, and are you kind of sad to see that go? Or?
Well, again, I guess it goes back to the days I remember my training camps, and I was with the Islanders, and you walked into the dressing room and it's like, wow, these guys are serious. They got a bike. And so it's interesting. Things evolve, but I think the players understand their bodies so much and are so invested into it. I think fitness testing has been maybe misconstrued a little bit. I think, again, the benefits of fitness testing can be, having base levels coming back from injuries and stuff like that. So those are going to be things that, as organizations, you want to put the players in the best situation to succeed and coming back off injuries and stuff like that. So the medical staff, the training staff, they're going to have to, obviously, figure out how to, measure, the power in the hip flexor so that, when a guy is coming back, that. So those are things that we're going to have to evolve with. And but as far as guys coming in shape, I don't think that's really ever been the case anymore. It's such a big, it's so competitive. I think the players, from that aspect of things, have that under control.
Speaking of players knowing their bodies, you've got a lot of faith in Jonathan Toews knowing his, given the summer that he's had, where he's at right now. What are you seeing from him that has you believe he can reclaim his form?
Well, I think the biggest thing that you see is, the level of enthusiasm, and I've talked to his agent a few times, even since he's like, I haven't seen him like this in years. Like, I haven't seen him like this, since he was, breaking into the league, as far as just the excitement level. I think, as in all our lives, I think when you potentially are losing something and then you get a chance to get it back, you really, really appreciate just how fortunate you are. And I'm excited for him because he gets to have that chance to play the game that he loves. I'm excited for us because he gets to play it here. I'm excited for, his mom and dad because, it's that, it's kind of that storybook thing. But make no mistake, when I sat with his agent, I said, like, well, all those things are wonderful. Our goal is to win, and that's what JT brings to the table, I think, is that, he's not doing this just for fun. Like, he's doing this to win.
I mean, the bar's got to be wide in terms of expectations for what level he can get to. But what is reasonable in your mind, given how much time it's been, and now he's 37?
So the interesting thing about, I was fortunate, obviously, watching him when he was just kind of coming into his prime and becoming, Captain Serious and leading, the Stanley Cups and stuff like that. But it never really was about the bulk of offense or anything like that. It was the little things that he did, the things that he did to make line mates better. Those aren't things that I think you lose because of age or not playing. Like, those are intangibles, and that's what he has. He has those. Now, again, we'll see how things, progress and everything like that. But I think the true measure of what he's going to bring to the team is how he elevates people around him. And you might not see that in his stats, but you might see it where he jumps over the boards to take that face off, and stuff like that. Those that again are things that are him. But I truly feel, he's kind of one of those guys that, let's not talk about him, right now. Let's just let him play, and let's just let it see, and let it all unfold, because I think, the greater likelihood of the impact is going to continue to come as the days go on.
In your opinion, one more if you don't mind. In your opinion, coming off of last year, losing in the second round, what were some of the takeaways, in your opinion, you saw with this team that they learned along the way?
Well, again, I think obviously, you can't take away from what they did in the regular season. That is a pretty special thing. I think that every team, you joke about it, you can't go 82-0, but you're certainly trying to, and every team is trying to. So, to win the President's Trophy, I think was a great accomplishment. But obviously, everybody wants to win that ultimate prize. I think you see how tough and how different every round in the playoffs can be, and that people say, why play the 82 games? Well, again, you build the habits, you build the different styles of play, the different things to be able to do, so that when you get into game 83 and beyond, you can play the different styles. I think that St. Louis series was as physical as probably you'll ever see for a long, long time. And, so guys can put that in their memory belt now and say, I got that. Obviously Dallas, a little kick here or there, and, things might be different. But you just never know, again, that's what the playoffs are all about. You have to be prepared, and they go by fast. So you can't just sit and wait. You gotta take it to it.
Thanks, guys.